Okay, team. So I want to introduce you to what I call the TSLAbot, and it's a semi-automated bot that you can manually. You have some manual inputs to enter or click, and the orders are automatically sized based on the bot settings. Some of the inputs that are here, and we'll go through that here in just a minute. But what these are toggles. So you can say, I'm going to be bullish, I want to be bearish, snapback or orb, which are two opposite strategies. And I want to share with you guys a little bit, for those of you who aren't familiar with either of these, how this works. And we're going to look at Tesla, and we're going to go back and back trade it using this actual tool. And what's super interesting about this is that it helps you go back in time, and it helps us kind of create almost like a video game when you can click buttons and manually buy and sell and exit. And it kind of gamifies back trading a little bit more than just manually adding lines and manually drawing and pausing and starting and restarting, because you can speed up and slow down. And it, like, as you guys know, in the real markets, nothing stops. You can't just pause the live markets because you don't have your order ready, right? And so it's pretty interesting how that all works. So let's go ahead and dive into the details of how this works. So for the most part, the last many weeks, Tesla has been in a downtrend. There's a few days where there are exceptions, but we're going to start looking at two examples first, which is the bearish orb and the bearish snapback. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of let's imagine the very first candle of a Tesla. On the very first candle comes in, it looks something like this. It doesn't matter in this example if it's 5 minutes, 3-minute chart, 1-minute chart. It doesn't really matter. Okay. What I want you to think about is, do you want to play the break lower? Right. In this case, again, we're talking about bearish. So we want a lower move, or this would be considered the orb if it breaks lower, the ORB. Or do you want to wait for a move higher first and a kind of a reversal with a stop loss up here with, that's an SL, use your imagination, with an entry here and then a take profit target kind of right down here. And so what I want you guys to think about, we're going to look at the actual examples, but either way, obviously when you're shorting, if you have something like a retest gap where the market is probably going to, if you have a significant gap down, right? So let's say that there's a big gap down, 2-3, anything more than 2-3% is going to be significant. And in Tesla, that's already happened in the first 2 weeks of the month, pretty much about 7 out of 10 days in Tesla for the month of January 2023. So imagine big gaps down, right? And if it's a retest gap, simply going to gap down, go a little bit higher, and then roll over and continue lower. That's typically how a retest gap works. And so in that case, you would want to wait for that first candle to come in, wait for price action to go higher, put your stop limit order here, and then and only then, if it reverses, are you actually triggered with a take profit down here. And that is, my friends, the snapback example. Okay, so let's imagine that same example again, but in a slightly different context. Let's say we're going to gap down again, but let's say this time it's probably, let's say it's a gap and go where you have a white candle. Maybe the previous price action was up like this, and there's a sizable gap down, right, overnight, and the market opens the very next day significantly lower. We'll say anything more than 2-3% gap down. And so then you're like, okay, this is the very first candle. So we probably want to get short here, kind of a entry here, right, with maybe a stop loss up here and a take profit kind of lower, right? And obviously this isn't the scale, but I just want to illustrate how this works so you guys understand when you click the button orb or snapback, what is expected and kind of what you're reading. Again, trading is a game of confidence. And very much you have to understand how the strategies you're using, how to use them, when to use them, when not to use them, how to deploy bots, when not to deploy bots. You have to have a pretty good understanding of that. So without further ado, we're going to jump in and we're going to go ahead and look at our very first example on January 5th, which was a bearish gap down. Okay, so here is our very first candle coming in. I'm looking at a 1-minute chart here on Tesla, and we are going to do a snapback. So I want the price action to first go a little bit higher. So my lines, all I did is I click bearish snapback go, and it threw out my actual order. All these are settings and things you can control in the bot itself in the input. So I have an entry here, stop here with a 1.2 profit taker obviously down here. So at this point I'm in the trade and it seems to be working okay so far. We'll see what happens. Now someone would say, Matt, why didn't you take this break lower? Why didn't you take that actual trade? And the reason is typically when you have big moves like this, the thing you don't see on this screen is the first 5 minutes worth of candles in ACAP, whatever that looks like. First 5 minute candles are not available, so we don't have a full picture just looking at this. What happened 5 minutes before this, so we're just getting a small peek in time. And so that is a great demonstration again of how the bearish snapback works. A great example. I'm going to pause it right here and do a real quick recap. Again, I'm using this first candle and I'm measuring the distance of this, and let's just say it's $1. So then the bot is going to automatically put $1 higher for a stop with a target price here in your you'll have an see a stop loss up here, SL. This would be your entry right here, or your E, and down here would be your take profit. So in my case, I had the setting set to a 1.2R profit taker. So it's 1R would be right here. 1.2 would of course be a little lower. And you guys can see the red and the green, the red and the blue, where we got into the trade, where we got out of the trade. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is an example of the bearish snapback. Make sense? Okay, so let's go ahead and move to our next example, which is the bearish orb. All right. So in this trade, it happened a little quick, but I went ahead and got short. So got short right here with a stop up here and a price target lower. Again, this is my stop loss, my entry here, and this was a bearish trade, and a take profit down here. So this is 1.2R quick win, in and out in 3 minutes. So quick $2,400 in 3 minutes. This is not hard. This does require you to understand the strategy, be confident with the strategies, make sure you understand the bearish, bullish, ORB, and snapback, how they work, and what is going to do when you click those buttons. So let me jump over to the settings real quick and show you. We'll walk through what is there for what's available for settings. Okay, so here are the settings that are available for what I call the TSLAbot. You can run this on any chart. I love running this on Tesla, thus the name TSLAbot. But some of these settings you guys will recognize are very similar to some of my other bots, especially these right here, where we have a 1.2 profit taker. What does that mean? That means 1.2R. You are able to click on it, edit it. Let's say you want to make it 1.4. It will auto adjust the targets. It'll auto adjust everything. And it will auto exit and put orders in those locations. The SL padding is your stop loss padding. So for example, if I was playing the very first candle right here, let's say I was playing the very first candle right here, and let's say I was playing it bullish, and I didn't really want the stop right to be the exact penny. I wanted a little bit of padding, right? That's kind of what the SL padding is. It's a percentage. It's 0.001. So in this case, at like $120.60 times 0.001, it's basically like a 12 cents of padding. That's what this calculation is, assuming this is 120.50, right? So instead of putting the stop right at the exact low, it gives it 12 cents of padding. This again is adjustable. You can update, do changes to whatever you want. The next are very standard for my bots, which is $2,000 of risk, a max lot size of 20. This is of course limits that are set inside of your 8-cap funded account, depending on what size you have account, you can adjust this. If you have a $50,000 account, you can put $500 of risk and 5 max lot size. Now, the next 3 settings have to do with trying to turn a day trade into a swing trade. Is if you're still in the trade, has not yet exited, do you want it to auto force an exit? And you set that to true, and it'll close at 40 minutes past the 22nd hour. And again, this is UK time because ACAP is located in England and London. And then the magic number is kind of the serial number. There's nothing really fancy here, except you guys will notice this is actually a date, 2022, December 21, 2022, and then the name of the bot. And that's the majority of the settings. The only example I did skip over is this candle number. And if you leave this set to 1, it's going to play the very first candle. So as the day is playing out, what that 1 represents is how many candles back do you want to trade. So for example, if I wanted to, I'll say I wanted to trade this candle right here, and we're currently here, I would set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would change that candle number to a 6, which means go back 6 candles. Now, if you're playing the very first candle of the day, we're going to wait for that very first candle to come in and close, and then click our order, bearish, bullish, snapback, or orb, and that's how we get thrown in and enter into a trade. So I want to go ahead and show you, this is my actual live account. I did open this just a few days ago, and so made some money just doing this exact same thing pretty much on the 12th and 13th, so Thursday and Friday. Got this account up, made some R's pretty quickly, in and out in a few minutes, which is pretty amazing. If you guys think about how valuable your time is and how much time you're spending in traffic, especially if you're in LA, I'm sorry about that. But how many of you guys sit in traffic making money? No one. Well, if you're at home playing the stock market, it's another way to avoid traffic and make some money instead. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our example here and just do a final recap, since we did 2 examples of the bearish orb and the bearish snapback. Again, the very first candle comes in on our 1-minute chart, and let's say we're biased just because it had a 5-6% gap down and maybe a gap below support. There's no support here, nothing holding it up, so we're going to have like a bearish bias to begin with. So we're going to have that bearish button kind of toggle selected, and depending on what happens next, if it breaks above or below, breaks below, we're going to be orb. If it breaks above, we're going to use the snapback, right? And then if we're using the snapback, our entry is here with a stop up higher and a take profit down here. So again, first candle of the day, entry here, take profit lower, stop loss here, and we're waiting for like a reversal. However, if this is a black candle and we are waiting for, we just want to play the break lower, it doesn't matter if this is a white or black candle, bullish or bearish, doesn't really matter. If that second candle comes and takes and goes below the low of this candle, we're going to go ahead and click that bearish or button, and it's going to throw out our orders. Boom, boom. We'll get triggered into a trade and wait for a lower move. Again, both of these are bearish scenarios. We have the orb and the snapback, and hopefully that explains the basics of how the bearish orb and snapback work. So now we're going to take a look at the bullish equivalents. So we're going to look at the bullish snapback first, and this is pretty much everything the same. The snapback and the orb work very similarly, but of course, as you can imagine, the orders are pretty much reversed. So on a bullish snapback, the very first candle comes in and we want a break lower. And then what we're going to do is try to get back up to the high of the day. So a break lower, kind of a U-turn, and we're going to have an automatic stop loss lower. And you'll see that's pretty much the diagram, almost exactly, where we're going to have a take profit up here. Our profit taker, take profit. Our entry is going to be here, and then our stop loss is lower. And part of the thing that people have a hard time understanding is, well, where the heck did it get this stop loss? Well, what it does is it measures the size of this candle. Let's say that candle is $1.20. The high minus the low is $1.20. So it's going to say, okay, let's put a stop loss $1.20 lower. And that's the basics. Now there is a setting called the SL padding, stop loss padding, that is defaulted to 0.001, and that will basically give you 10, 12, 15 cents of padding, so your stop loss isn't at the exact, exactly $1.20. It'd be $1.20 plus, let's say 12 cents, so $1.32. And that's how the snapback works, and it requires kind of a U-turn. That's what it's looking for, a huge U-turn. And this is why with Tesla, normally, especially in December and January, you're getting a lot more bigger gaps, like 3, 4, 5, 6% gaps. Didn't used to gap that much. And so that's why I kind of decide which one to use based on what happens next, whether we're using the orb or the snapback. People ask me, Matt, do you still use the snapback? I do use it every week, not necessarily every day for obvious reasons, but I do use it every week. So let's take a look at the bullish orb. So here we have the very first candle come in. Entry is a break above, stop loss below, and then if we're saying $1.20, it'd be $1.20. And if you're taking a 1.2R, it'd be 20% added to that, right? So 1.2R, and we're waiting to kind of make a new high. The cool thing about the snapback is you really need a break lower, and then it's almost like a bear fake, right? Where the bears think the price action is going to go lower, and then it reverses and actually goes higher. Whereas the bullish orb is more of like a breakout. It doesn't matter if it gaps down or gaps up, whatever, it doesn't matter. But obviously the bullish orb is a break above, where the snapback is a break below. Both are bullish buy orders or buy limit or stop limit orders, stop limit buy orders. ACAP calls them buy stop limit orders. So let's take a look at the very first example of a bullish snapback, which is January 9th. Okay, so here we are on January 9th on a 1-minute chart on Tesla. And you guys can see that this was a significant gap up. It's a 5.22% retest gap. And what I'm going to be looking to do is I want a little bit of a break lower with a, there we go. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off my order. And what I want to do is get in bullish. Now, yes, it's moving against me right this second, but I want to get in bullish, and I want the price action to reverse and continue and go back higher. So in this case, you'll see that I do have a profit taker up here of it's a 1.2 our profit taker, and currently in the trade. And we'll go ahead and speed this up just a little bit. Typically these trades take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. And I believe this one, I did this live as well, and I believe this one took a little bit longer. There you go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 candles. So 11 minutes to make to make some R's. And in this case, the snapback happened because I have a bullish bias, but it actually broke lower first, and I want it to go higher. And so that's kind of how that worked. Now, I could have got in bullish, and then it literally retested fully all the way back down here, and I would have just lost an R. No big deal, right? So that is how a bullish snapback works. And the very next example, we're going to look at the bullish orb. So this is January 11th, had a pretty significant 2.73% gap and go. So this was a gap up. Previous candle was a black candle. So in this case, we're going to be taking this trade bullish. Our direction, I should say, is bullish. And if we break above, then I'm going to be looking, yep, looks like we're going to be breaking above. So I'm going to go ahead and throw an order. Looks like I'm going to be breaking above. So I'm now in the trade, and I'm looking for a move higher. Again, this is an example of the bullish orb. You take a look at that very first candle, entry there, stop loss with some padding lower, and a 1.2R profit taker here. And we'll go ahead and speed this up just a little bit and see what happens. Typically, I will say that we typically get maybe 2 or 3 times a month, we have an opportunity to make 2 to 3 Rs. There we go. Exit almost right at the high there. Wow. And there we go. So that is an example of all 4 of those, and it's pretty easy. These buttons only work when the price action is moving, so don't expect them. It's kind of like a rudder on a boat. It only works when you're actually in motion. Now, if you'll notice, I was using 2R of risk and I had my max lot size. So I should have about $2,400 in winnings. Instead, I got $1,960. And that is because of I hit my max lot size, right? Just to reiterate, the bullish orb and the snapback, again, a bullish orb, we're looking for a break above. We're gonna wait for a break above that first candle. We're gonna wait for a new high to exit, with the low being kind of our stop, with some, a little bit of padding. I've seen some people put their stop at the exact penny. You really don't want to get sucker punched like that. Trust me, been there, got the t-shirt. You really don't want that. But the example here of the snapback is the very first candle comes in. You want to break lower and you want to buy when it goes lower, and you're waiting for a reversal. So if this is $1.20, the candle from the high to low is $1.20 of risk, we're going to add $1.20 in size. We're going to add $1.20 in risk with the stop loss lower, waiting for reversal with a take profit back towards the high of the day. And if you're looking for a 1.2R, it's got to make a little bit of a newer high, but it doesn't have to make all-time highs for that to work, to get the 1.2R profit taker. So that is, my friends, how you use all four of those. Again, this is a recap of the TSLAbot. This is a little bit different, where you can't just run a back test on it because it requires some input from you. You're not able to just let it make the decision. It does have some manual input required. And so you can't just run like a normal back test and see what the results are. So this does require, again, some manual inputs, and it takes care of all the orders, the stop loss, all the things, sizing, your take profit. And again, if you're doing this live, trading it live, I'm recording this on a weekend. So if you have your lines for your entries, once you're in the trade, you are able to drag those lines and tighten up stops and increase target profits and that kind of thing. So you're able to even manually, kind of semi-automatically, is that a word? Semi-automatically enter trades without having to type a whole bunch of buttons or copy and paste a whole bunch of stuff. You literally click buttons. And the cool part is, if you wanted to, you can take this bot and go back and retest and re-back trade the entire month of December, and send me an email, matt@reallifetrading.com. Let me know how you did, if you want to go back and back trade an entire month. Again, it does require you to have some inputs, and those inputs are going to bear your bias and your strategy, of course, being defined. And it does require that input and that user interaction. So obviously, if you retrade the entire month of December 3 or 4 different times, you're probably going to get different results every time, because you played it different every single time. So hope that's helpful, team. That is how I use the snapback and the ORB bearish and bullish pretty much every day on Tesla. Making some significant money here in the funded accounts. Almost got my 3rd account fully funded using these tools. So hope that helps. Hope that's helpful. And as always, don't forget to love life, live life, and trade it. Thanks. Goodbye.